So we all know that W124s are great Mercedeses, suitable for everyday use, probably one of the best cars ever built. But through our 15 odd years of doing spares for these cars, we've come to realize what parts are weak points on them. And I'm going to go through that, and there's also certain parts that are starting to become very, very difficult to find. So if you're looking at buying a W124, pay attention to those, and yeah, we'll end off with the hardest part of all to find. So starting off, mud flaps. Okay, mud flaps. We get a lot of phone calls for mud flaps. They're very, very difficult. Most of the time when we get a car in for stripping, they look like that, completely naked. Very, very few times we get the original mud flaps looking like that. Next thing, center vents. And this is a car that came in for stripping, so we've already started working through it. But yeah, this center vent here, the vents inside it, the little fins, these over here, always break. Starting to become very difficult to find those. Mirrors, these over here. A weak point is this dipping switch. These break. We get a lot of calls for these mirrors. We sell a lot of them. Obviously the sun visor clips. It is something you can get off Temu and stuff like that for a few rand if you want to venture that way, but very difficult to find as well locally. They break. Mirrors. When a 124 comes in with decent mirrors, these things sell within the first day or two. What happens is the rubber surround, and we can go to a different one here. Let's see if we've got any right-hand ones here. No, they're all gone. But the left-hand one is a good example here. You have a look at this. This one's actually really nice because the rubber's still fairly supple here, but this cracks and starts looking really, really bad. And you can get them online, but the problem is the ones online are for left-hand drives, and the left-hand drive and right-hand drive ones are different because the shapes of the mirrors on the passenger and driver's side are different. So a lot of people have bought these rubbers online only to find that it doesn't work. So if we get a 124 in with decent rubbers, or if you see a 124 with decent rubbers around here, yeah, very good thing to get. The other thing is the little adjusting arm on the driver's side also breaks. It becomes brittle because it hasn't been used frequently over the years, and somebody forces it and it snaps off, and that can't be repaired. Let me go around here. The next thing is on the front bumper. Also a very tricky part to find these days. This little tow hook cover. This over here. This bumper is cracked, but this little tow hook cover that goes here, it's something that's missing on a lot of 124s, and it's something you can't source. Very difficult to source. Stars, very easy to source. Lights, easy to source. Indicators, easy to source. Front bumpers starting to get very hard to find the originals in good condition, and that's not just the tow cover but the bumper, because it's a single piece from here to here with the bumper strip on, impact strip. They crack down here, so you have to replace the whole bumper. You can get Hong Kong ones, the quality isn't quite the same, but you can get them, but even those are drying up. So the original ones in good condition, if you got one of those, yeah, what a piece of gold. Grill inserts, another story. They start chipping off like this. Obviously the original hubcaps, most of them ended up on a Quantum decades ago, so they're very hard to find. These little jack point covers on the earlier ones, they had little plugs that plugged inside here, very hard to find. The later ones have these little plastic covers that go on the skirt. And as you can see, it's normally the first thing we sell. Next thing, light switch. The original light switches are shared with the 202s and a number of other models, including the 140, I think. And they start failing. So they start becoming very floppy. There again, you can get aftermarket ones, not great quality. The original ones, very tricky to find. Ignition switches, another story. When that thing seizes, the only thing you can do, you can't replace just the barrel because you can't take the cover off it. So without putting it in position 2, So what we do is we supply a complete ignition lock with the steering lock, so the steering lock with a barrel and key. Also difficult to find new. In fact, it's impossible to find new. Second-hand is the only option there, and second-hand ones, I see this one's already sold out of this car that came in last week. We do have one in the other car, but yeah, that's the other option. Another thing, very, very difficult to find here are these little rubbers. It's actually a nice condition in this one. Look at that. Well, fairly nice condition. Now these you can get online, but most of them just collapse like that. So you can import them, but the original ones, yeah, you just don't find anymore. Yeah, it's gone here as well. Winder handles, also very difficult to find with the covers, particularly with the manual windows. We're trying to open one up here. This door. There we go. Those. The majority of W124s made here in South Africa had electric windows, and even those, the switches, there's two different variants. The one variant, there's plenty of them around. The other variant, very tricky to find. So yeah, those handles in various colors, particularly this color, this is a scarce color actually in 124s, and scarce color interior. So yeah, that's also tricky. Bella, anything that stands out for you?
Rear window regulators.
Rear window regulators, hard to find. These on the pre-facelift, these seem to break. I mean, these we always sell very, very quickly, and always a shortage of them around.
And the aerial grommet.
Aerial grommet, yeah. I mean, Hirschman or Wissy aerial is something that's. I remember 10 years ago, you could go to Mercedes and buy them. They were cheap. I think even then, 3,500, 4,000 rand. But today you can't. They're just not available. And not only the aerial, but this little rubber that goes around it. Yeah. This also looks aftermarket, but this giddy. The original ones are these. Yeah, you just don't see them anymore.
And nice seats are hard to find.
Nice seats are very hard to find. We do offer that upholstery, so I mean there are workarounds with that. But things that are really, really difficult to find, or getting very difficult to find, fuel distributors. There are kits that you can get to rebuild them, particularly if the car's been standing for a while, but working original ones that haven't been opened up, getting tricky to find. Fuel pressure regulators as well, getting tricky to find. I'm just thinking what else.
Fuel pump relay.
Fuel pump relays. Fuel pump relays, when they come in, they're gone as we get the cars in. But the same applies to W123s, W126s as well. Things like OVP relays, you can buy them aftermarket, so that's not an issue. But the fuel pump relay, yeah, very, very tricky as well. But the thing that's the hardest to find in good condition, and I see very, very few of them, is that wood trim around the gear shift. The majority of them are cracked like that. I said in one of the other videos I did, I once thought, no, I watched a couple of YouTube videos and I'll restore mine, and I started on the Friday afternoon sanding and varnishing and sanding and varnishing, and I spent the whole of Friday night, Saturday, Sunday, and I promise you it looked worse than when I started, when I'd finished the thing. So they're really, really difficult to get them nice. There used to be a chap that used to redo them, but finding one that isn't cracked in original condition, very, very difficult. There you can see as well. Door cards are also getting tricky to find. Door cards that the earlier ones, they often lift away. So I don't know if you can see on the back doors there, but you know that fabric actually pulls away there. But the clips that hold the front door pocket in, they often break because people don't know how to take that off when they're changing a regulator or central locking actuator without breaking the clips. There's a whole bunch of clips that hold it in place. I don't know if this one's still here. A whole bunch of clips all the way along, and people pull it off and they break the clips, and then this becomes very floppy. So we do get a lot of inquiries for that particular thing as well. And also the handle, because there's clips on the handle. That's how the whole thing secures. So we must do a tutorial sometime on how to take this off to change the regulator without breaking it. But yeah, that's a very common problem as well. And the other common issue is that these B-pillar trims, if you have a look at that, they pull away. The fabric pulls away on it. So people like to give it a shot in gluing that. But when they do it, they break this cover at the bottom. There's a little plastic cover there. Can't really see it here. Maybe it's a better view over here. Maybe. But that breaks because it's also tricky to get off. And we get a lot of inquiries for that, and they're also getting very difficult to find this little plastic cover here. So this is what happens. This pulls off here. Try and glue it, but to take it off, you need to take that off. So, yeah. Standing over here, looking at this one, this car's got self-leveling rear suspension. The self-leveling rear shocks getting very difficult to find. A lot of people are just buying a standard conversion kit from us and converting it to standard rear suspension out of like a 230E. Another thing very difficult to find is the electronic ignition module for the 300E 260E that normally sits over here. You can see this one sold. Speaking about those things, I mean, here on the others, on the 4 cylinders, see if this one's still here. Yes, it would be. This is what it looks like on the 4 cylinders. The important thing to note here is that you must always try and get one of these, which would be Bosch or Siemens, and not the aftermarket ones. It's much better to get an original Bosch or Siemens and a cheap aftermarket. They always end in tears. Those are a lot more freely available than on the 6 cylinders. The 260E, 300E, very, very difficult to find. There was something else, Bella, you mentioned.
Duo valve.
Duo valves. There again, we get a lot of inquiries. Most of them are seized up. It's already, here's one on this car still, but that's the heater control valve. So if you're getting in the car and your heaters, you know, it's hot air coming out of one side when the heater's off, this is the issue here. And these little pistons seize up, and we get a lot of inquiries. There are kits you can get, but not here in South Africa, so you've got to get them off eBay. And there's a few variants of duo valves, so ensure you get the right one, but we get a lot of inquiries for those, and we sell the good ones very, very quickly. As they come in is the Becker radios. A lot of radios were changed. People have put in Bluetooth radios or CD players or whatever over the year. The original Becker like that, a lot of people like reverting to standard, particularly on very nice W124s, and yeah, that Becker radio is not a cheap thing, and it's pretty difficult to find. The same go for the rubber overlay mats. It was an option here in South Africa where you could actually specify them, and they're color coded to the interior, so grey would have grey, cream, whatever, and those are also very much in demand. We get them in and they sell within a day. Okay, so just coming inside and having a look at the lights, the other thing that's become very scarce are the original, the Bosch facelift tail lights. So obviously the pre-facelift had the orange indicator and the white, and as you can see here, we've got a bunch of those in stock. We don't have any of the original. This is a Fong Kong one, and unfortunately they turn pink. So when you have a look at it, it looks really lousy. They become very, very scarce, very difficult to find. The facelift ones here in South Africa in any case. Those are a lot easier to find. Well, anyway, that's more or less wraps it up. It's not a comprehensive list, but it's certainly a list of things that we find are becoming very, very scarce, and it's something that if I buy a 124 for myself, those are the things I'm really going to pay attention to and make sure that they're there and present. One more thing is the 722.4 gearbox, and that's what I said right in the beginning. The thing that you really need to make sure is right on an automatic W124 is that automatic gearbox. We get a lot of calls, very often 2 or 3 a day, and yeah, you can have them repaired, but it's expensive, and it's a lot more expensive than buying a decent second-hand one, and it's a very common problem. We get a lot of the cars that we buy in for stripping, we buy them in because the gearbox has failed. I reckon that wraps up today's video. Thank you for watching, and I hope you get something useful out of it. If you enjoy the videos and the sort of content that Bill and I do put on the channel, please subscribe. We try and get a new video up every week, and if you have any suggestions as to what you'd like to see on it, put it in the comments.